another thing. All upon the golden time. First I was a widow, how can I be a bride? Well, I'm alone, alone. I said before, I'll be back in David's on your wooden floor. I just feel I'm not here, but you feel me. I just feel it. Think I'll call the sugar got tea, but I got bed, but nothing is bothering me.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes all the same. There's a pink one and a green one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses all went to the university where they were put in boxes and they came out all the same. And there's doctors and lawyers and business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. And they all play on the golf course and drink their martinis dry, and they all have pretty children, and the children go to school, and the children go to summer camp, and then to the university where they are put in boxes and they come out all the same. And the boys go into business and marry and raise a family in boxes made of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. There's a pink one and a green one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all kind of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.
Author's note. Actions in this play may be more distant than they appear. The story of the main character is a work of fiction. While some elements may be rooted in real feelings, feelings are not facts, and neither is this story. The monologues portrayed in this story are not works of fiction. All are exact or nearly exact transcripts from interviews or diaries. Some of the changes were made in logic mind, moving a comma, finishing that word. Others were made with discernment, asking questions of people who knew better and or more than I did. This show is not a celebration of the times or the things that these women said or did. If they were, then I wouldn't be telling these stories. I merely come from the perspective of what we, and more selfishly, what I would lose if these stories were lost. The work is never done. This script is probably never going to be done. It has been changing and growing these last 2 years, and it will probably never stop. So this is what I have now. The fact is there are always stories to be told. I hope someday I can hear yours. Okay, I have this theory. My spirit, living in this bag of blood, bones, she didn't decide where or when or how. She just kind of covered her eyes, spun in a circle, and pointed at this flaming rock and said, them. I want to be a part of that group of alien, human, monkey things. It's like this weird game of Russian roulette. I don't get it. I say this because the people I come from, it doesn't make sense. Let me lay it out for you. Okay, so there are my parents. And of course they came from their parents. Millie and Andy on my mom's side. And Sandra and Ed on my dad's side. The men aren't that important. Okay, and my dad, he is an older brother to a brother, and his big sister. Whew. Okay, and then my mom, she's the oldest of 6. 4 younger brothers. Again, the men are not important. And 1 little sister. Okay, so my grandparents, of course, they come from parents who have siblings, who have cousins and, you know, aunts and uncles and stepwives. And my parents' siblings, they have children, and some of their children have children. And then, of course, there's me and my brother. And let's not forget this one. All of this, it's intellectual. It's DNA strands. It doesn't matter. always been a lonely person. Don't get me wrong, I was loved for, cherished, and cared for, but no one ever really got me. I was always in my own little world. That's kind of why I didn't want a child. I would be off in my own little world, alone, with another alien human monkey thing that I didn't know how to take care of. But here I am. In my immediate family, it was pretty much the same thing. I was loved, cared for, but I was different. I was a winter born in a family of summers. My mom's idea of bliss is backpacking across the Canadian bush. My brother literally just built his house in the bed of his truck and is traveling across the desert as we speak. And my dad, well, I overwhelmed him. He just kind of looked and smiled and said I was an expensive date. The thing is, he's right, I was a very expensive date. I was an extravagant little girl. I was egotistical and dramatic and didn't understand why everyone thought I was the most important person in the world. Anyway, it all kind of started to make sense with my dad's sister. She would take me shopping. There was this one time we had been shopping for hours. We picked out all these outfits. And I was little, so she loved to dress me up. And, like I said, we'd been there for hours. And when she was getting ready to go, I just looked at her and said, okay, and now for the shoes. There's this one time she took me to the Disney store, and she bought me this Cinderella ball gown. I mean a ball gown with puffy silver sleeves and elbow-length gloves. I still have it, just in case I shrink back into a size medium in girls. We were so similar. And not just in shopping habits. She was bold and really just didn't give a fuck what you thought. She was wild. With a side of meditation mashed potatoes. She was someone I could look at and think maybe I wasn't so different. We were more similar than I realized. She killed herself when I was 11. It's okay. You know, it's one of those things that you realize even without the tragedy, this is kind of who you were meant to be. Alone. I know it sounds sad, but it's safer. And I kind of like it. I do. I'm great. Good. I'm very fine. Okay, I'm lying. But it's not like I don't have feelings, okay? My feelings, they're huge. They're so big. I don't even know how to hold them. Let me show you. These are my feelings. It's kind of a little trick I picked up a while back. What you do is you take a feeling, whether it be gut-wrenching or heartbreaking or uncomfortable, and you kind of just pack it up. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it is so amazing. Okay, I'll give you a little peek. This is the pen I used to write my brother a letter when he was in rehab. He used to be the only person who could make me laugh when I was a baby. And I've never cried harder than I did on that day. These are the shoes. Okay, this is a little trinket from my dad. He was always around until he wasn't. I have these amazing memories of going to get bagels and the library on Sundays and him picking me up from school and watching Mr. Rogers. And then little by little, it all just kind of stopped. And I didn't understand what I did wrong. This is my mom's. She was an achiever. A pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of woman. She was always reaching for that bar that was good enough, and reaching because the bar kept moving. And, you know, she was doing it for her kids. I just wanted her. Whew, okay. Okay, this is my grandmother's, my dad's mom. She was a badass storyteller. My mom would tell me the story of when I was a newborn baby. My grandma held me, and we both looked so peaceful, like we had plugged into each other. I've searched my entire life for that feeling that I supposedly felt when I was a newborn baby. I don't know, I guess I never really found it. I don't know, I guess it's kind of all just... The year was 1965 in Birmingham, Alabama. My husband and I, Ed, were fierce supporters of civil rights and integration, which was not a very popular thing in Birmingham, Alabama, 1965. We were living in a time of incredible tension. There were 250 other white people who shared our liberal views. One of them, as a matter of fact, he lived across the street and down a ways. His name was Joe Wilson. He was one of those Kentucky good old boys. Now, one of the things that Ed and I did to promote our views was take part on the Council on Human Relations. Now, a program that they held was on Sunday afternoons. A host couple would have a couple of the opposite race come to their house so that when integration came, because that was the way it looked like it was going to go, there would be a network in place. So Ed and I decided to sign up to be a host couple. So that Sunday afternoon, we sent our kids, Edith, Mark, and Philip, to Ed's parents' house. Mind you, they had no idea what was going on. We had a couple show up, and it was a little awkward at first, but they had children too, so we found common ground that way. It wasn't more than 5 minutes when the telephone rang, and Ed went to go answer it, and he came back looking a little pale. It turns out that a lawyer friend, a liberal lawyer friend of ours, and we have no idea how we got this information, but he called us and asked, Ed, do you have black people in your home? And he said, yes. The man said, "Well, we just wanted to let you know that the police know about this." We were astonished. We just had people in our living room. Anyway, a couple minutes later, across the street there's a vacant lot with shrubs in front of it. And a few minutes later, I looked out the front door, and it was made of glass, and there was what looked like a man with a camera across the street hiding behind the shrubs, just snapping pictures. Now, when Ed tells the story, he talks about how scared he was. He just wanted to go hide somewhere. But I was furious. I just ran out onto the front lawn and started screaming, "Why are you taking pictures of my house?" I was livid. Now, the man started backing away with his camera a little bit. At that point, I realized that if he was scared of a little white lady on the lawn, I'd probably gone a little bit overboard. So I went back in the house. I must have scared the people, our new friends, so I went to go repair whatever damage I did with them. Now, while I was going crazy on the lawn, Ed had called Joe Wilson from across the street. Now, Joe Wilson was a fierce supporter of integration, and he was not convinced whatsoever that this whole nonviolence approach was going to work. So when he got the call, he grabbed his shotgun and ended up helping this man back to his car. Now, when Joe Wilson called us and told us that the man had gone, we were elated. I mean, we had run this man off. Of course, he wasn't alone. After a little while, the threatening telephone calls began. Threatening our children by name. Edith, Mark, Philip. That was when we knew we had to figure something out. We couldn't put our children at risk. So the next day, I called my mama in Nashville, about 200 miles away, 200 miles north. And I asked her if she could watch the kids for a couple days so Ed and I could figure some sort of plan out. So she said she could probably do that, although she was working the next day. So was I. I was working at the Birmingham Post-Herald at the time. So I packed up Ed and the 3 kids and a couple of their belongings, and Ed drove the 200 miles north to Nashville. Now, my mama was at work when he got there, but he knew where the key was. He got me fine. Only a couple minutes had passed when the telephone rang, so he answered it for her. And the man on the other end said, "You race traitor, motherfucking son of a bitch. You don't deserve to live." Now, we had been skeptical that they were tapping phones, but after that, there was no doubt. Not only did they know our telephone number, but they knew my mother's telephone number. They knew where she lived. They knew when Ed and my children were going to show up at my mother's house 200 miles away. After that, we had no choice but to leave Birmingham. So we left for Boston the next week, and we never looked back. The thing is, though, we could do that. We could never look back. We could go somewhere where they wouldn't hurt our children. Because I'm a white woman, married to a white man with 3 white children. And I just wanted to save my babies. What about all the mamas who wanted to save theirs? What about them? Okay, yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Spirit taking over your body, yeah, okay, cool. Okay, This is obviously some kind of hormonal change that's going on, so I'm just gonna put this stuff away. There, okay, yeah. This is a 1951 class ring. I don't even remember putting this in here. This was Millie's. This was my mom's mom. I never knew her. She died before I was born. No. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. Our married life. Decided to get out of the tavern business in April 1955. Andy started work at Bay Warner April 27, 1955 on second shift. Left the tavern June 1st, 1955, moved into a 4-room apartment behind Kincaid Depot the same day. Ruthie and Tino got married June 18, 1955 at 9 a.m. St. Rylas at Kincaid Reception, followed 2 p.m. at Peabody Clubhouse. And I bought Earl Vaughn's house in the new addition at Kincaid July 1st, 1955. Expect to move in around August 1st. Deborah Ann Dougherty born July 24th, 1955, 10 years to the day my brother Jim was killed. Moved into our house July 25th, 1955. Debbie weighed 6 pounds, 15 ounces, was 18.5 inches long at 6:05 a.m. CST, doctor's name, L.C. Young. Debbie christened August 27, 1955. Ruth Bernardi, godmother. Nick Fassier, godfather. Debbie, hands at 3.5 months, rolled over at 4 months. Andy laid off from Borg Warner May 25, 1956. Started at Franklin Life in Springfield July 2, 1956. Andy went to school in August 1956 for 6 weeks for UNIVAC training in Chicago. I went to Chicago for 2 days when Andy finished training. Found out in October we would have another baby in June. Was awfully sick at first, but seemed to get over it at about 5 months. Andy started vacation, first of 2 weeks, May 11th, 1957. Andy got his first role at Franklin Life in January, $25. Bought bunk beds and new stroller, etc. when Andrew William was born. Arrived June 17th, 1957, and Debbie slept in her new bed without falling out. Grandma and Grandpa Dougherty started in grocery store in April 1957. 5 months after Andy was born, I had a miscarriage and was in hospital for 3 days. April 1958, pregnant again. This can't keep going. It can't keep
Got
going.
my sewing machine fried and now decided to get busy and get this house up a little bit. October 14th, 1958, Michael was born. Almost lost him due to cord around his neck. Was very lucky. May 1st, 1959, was in hospital 9 days with miscarriage. Back in hospital May 30th, 1959, with infected cyst for 3 days. In hospital for removal of cyst, July 7th, 1959. Stayed for 6 days. August 1959, discovered I'm pregnant again.
This can't go on. This has to be the last.
Charlie B., Holy Communion, May 20th, 1973, at St. Mary's Church, Pawnee, Illinois. Daniel B., confirmation, May 25th, 1973, at St. Mary's Church, Pawnee, Illinois. Amy Kathleen, born 2/21/68.
I know want to have to be like them. I don't want a daughter. I don't want her to have to be like them. I can't do it alone. I'm not strong enough. These children were the weak spots for these women. It couldn't have been worth it. I know you don't always feel strong. I know you often feel alone. And a part of that is that existential aloneness, that bigger than me aloneness that we all have as a part of being our own individual specks in this universe. The thing is, each one of those specks is integral to everything around it. Whether it be by DNA, or by stories, and or sheer tenacity. We have brushed up against each other. Therefore, we can never not brush up against each other. We've all brushed up against you, and we've all brushed up against her. You've all brushed up against her. Okay. This is my great-great-grandmother's. She moved here when she was 14 from Italy, alone. She had an illegal distillery in the 1940s, and she made her 5-year-old grandson pump the water for it. This is my Grandma Jacobs, great-grandma Jacobs. Her son Jimmy, he died in World War II. His name, James Dougherty, is on the monument in Battery Park. And this is my mother's. After putting her son in rehab and her daughter into a psych ward, she went back to school and then got cancer. And she never stopped claiming that she was a lucky duck. Okay. I get it. It's my turn. Dear daughter, more than anything, I want you to know how important you are to this world. I want you to know that wherever your 2 feet are planted, they have a right to be there. And not in an egotistical way, in a true way. in an earnest way, in a way that you would never question. I don't ever want you to stick your nose up in the air like I do sometimes, but keep it level with the people you learn from and the people you teach. I pray that I let you know how much I love you. I pray that if the time ever comes that you need to tell me that you're not my daughter, that you are someone else entirely, that the name I gifted you is not yours. I pray that the courage lives in you like your heartbeat. And I pray that my acceptance of you is obnoxious. I want you to know that the women behind you were strong. Like, think of how strong your mama is and multiply it by 10. The line you come from is never ever lacking in love. It's bold and full of life. The women you come from, they raised me. And they'll raise you too, if you let them. They're never around when you want them to be there, but they will always be there when you need them to be here. They will hold you steady, and when they don't, they will be the ground you fall on. You will have those days, years even, where you think your mom is a bitch. And this "you are never alone" bullshit is because your mom smoked too much in college. You might be right about the smoking bit, but I promise you are never alone. And you can take it from me, the amount of times that I convinced myself that I was alone is depressing. Love without honesty is hypocrisy. And honesty without love is abuse. So you can take it to the bank that I will feed you with the bitterest of truths while wrapping you in a hold made of honey. The only reason I was alive to have you is because of them. Yes, I did the therapy and the crying, but only because they moved my feet to get me here. The women you come from are so immensely powerful that I never had a choice to be a force to be reckoned with. No matter how much I fought it, I pray I raise you knowing that you don't have a choice either. I pray that you never let boys or booze or what other people think of you keep you from feeling every bit of being human. I promise that it will hurt. And I promise that it is worth every ounce of pain. And I told you that I would never lie to you. You know, I thought I was saving this for myself. But I think I was just saving it for you. Love your mom.
The sweat